Okay, folks, I want to call the Hopkinton Town Council meeting of November 4th, 2019 to order with a moment of silent meditation and salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Need a motion to sit as licensing board?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. First up, liquor license renewals. Number one, open a hearing on renewal of the following liquor licenses. Class A, Hopkinton Liquor Depot, Lynn Marie Finn, President of PLW Hopkinton Inc., 229 Main Street, Ashaway. Lynn here.
Here.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Great, thank you. Village Place Liquors, Dennis Plant, President of D&M Liquors, Inc., 26 Alton Bradford Road, Bradford. Representative, yes, okay. Okay. Class BD, Brick Oven Restaurant, Keith Knott, President, Brick Oven Restaurant of Ashaway, 209 Main Street, SLD. Fenner Hill Country Club, Ron Levesque, President, 33 Wheeler Lane, Hope Valley, Rhode Island, with courtesy car. Lucky House, Danny. Danny Zhang, President, 32 Main Street, Ashaway. Any representative from Lucky House? Wood River Golf, I see Kate. Jeffrey Thompson, President, 78A Woodville, Alton Road, Hope Valley, with courtesy cart. And Boneyard Barbecue, William Beggs, President of ABK LLC, 15A Frontier Road, Ashaway. Mr. Beggs, I did not see. Okay, Class B Limited, Main Street Pizza, Chris Waynsky, CHS LLC, 229 Main Street. All the applicants are here except, I believe, William Beggs and Danny Chen. Zhang, I'm sorry. All fees paid and notices posted, Lisa?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone out there wishing to speak for or against these liquor license renewals? Okay. Council? Any thoughts?
Well, I think we should table Boneyard Barbecue because we have no application received.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. There also is not a time motion.
We have no reports on that.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I move that we approve the Class A license for Hopkinton Liquor Depot and Village Place Liquors. So let me get it right. All fees paid and notices posted.
Second.
And is that subject to all state and town regulations?
Oh, thank you.
Being met and all town taxes contrary to issue?
Yes, that's the motion. Thank you.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
I make the motion that we approve Brick Oven Restaurant at 209 Main Street, Ashaway, Fenner Hill Country Club LLC at 33 Wheeler Lane, Hope Valley, Wood River Golf LLC, Kathleen Thompson at 78A Woodville, Alton Road in Hope Valley, with all fees paid, notices posted, and subject to all state and town regulations being met and all town taxes current prior to issue.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any representative from Lucky House in case I missed them? Okay.
Motion also for Class B Limited, Main Street Pizza, Christopher Waynsky, 229 Main Street, Ashaway. All fees paid, notices posted, and each license was subject to all state and town regulations being met and all town taxes current prior to issue.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I think that's it, right?
Can we postpone Lucky House to see if he arrives a little
Yeah.
later this evening?
Yeah. Usually he's here. Here's the eviction. All right, next up, victualling license renewals. Number two, open a hearing on the renewal of the following victualling licenses. Back in Time Herb Farm and Kitchen, 493 Main Street. Brick Oven Restaurant, 209 Main Street, Ashaway. Dunkin' Donuts, 231 Main Street, Ashaway. Fenner Hill Country Club, 33 Wheeler Lane, Hope Valley. Lucky House Restaurant, 32 Main Street, Ashaway. Mon Pa's Country Cooking, 865 Main Street, Hope Valley. Mon Pa's Country Store, 1044 Main Street, Hope Valley. Boneyard Barbecue, 15A Frontier Road, Hopkinton. No application received. Main Street Pizza, 229 Main Street, Ashaway. Pete's Grocery, 244B Ashaway Road, Bradford. Spring Street Market, 1 Spring Street, Hope Valley. West Bakery, 995 Main Street, Hope Valley. Wood River Golf, 78A Woodville, Alton Road, Hope Valley.
I make a motion to table Boneyard Barbecue.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I make a motion to renew the victualling licenses for the restaurants mentioned, subject to all state and town regulations being met and all town taxes current prior to issue.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, folks.
Are you going to discuss, consider, and vote to set the limit on liquor licenses, or are you not going to address that?
I would like to address it, but maybe we can see if Daryl's going to arrive, and then we'll finish that one. And perhaps
Thank you.
So we're going to close the licensing hearing and see if he arrives during the meeting
Yeah,
tonight.
adjourn the licensing. Yeah, so let's see if he shows up.
Move that we adjourn the licensing board reconvenes the council.
second.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, next up, consent agenda. Approved town council meeting minutes of October 21st, 2019. Executive session minutes of October 21st, 2019. Accepted September 30th, 2019 transcript as a record of the show cause hearing regarding AEK LLC DBA Boneyard Barbecue and Saloon. Consider and approve a petition from National Grid to install a utility pole number 20 through 50 and anchor to pole number 19 on Sawmill Road.
No executive for the town council.
The town council meeting minutes of October 21st.
I'll move that we approve the consent agenda with October 21st removed.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, Sharon?
Aye.
Yes?
The second line and the fifth line from the bottom, the word roll is R-O-L-E, not R-O-L.
Same as true on the second line. Motion to approve town council meeting minutes of October 21st.
Seconded.
With changes.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, first public forum. Anyone wishing to be heard, please come to the podium, state your name, address. I'm not sure how many are going to want to speak, so I'm going to try and limit the time, and then if we need more time, obviously I'll figure that out as we go, but I'll try and keep it to 5 minutes or less, depending on the number of folks, and if we don't have that many, then we'll have folks come back up. Walter, did you want to say something?
Yes, I did.
Okay, podium, please. Oh, no, right there.
Taylor, Starkville, hear me okay?
Lift the mic.
Is that better?
That's Jerry.
All right, I want to clarify something we started last week. The house, I'm talking about solar power now, and whatever we're talking about, the windmills. The house I talked about being sold, somebody came up to me and said, those people sold it because they didn't want to be near a solar farm. They're afraid it was going to lower their property value. That house sold for over $500,000. In a high-tax town, evidently it wasn't a deterrent. In fact, on the real estate ad, it's plainly stated near a solar farm, with no houses being built for the next 25 years. I call it a selling point. Now, if you had over $500,000 spent, would you go and buy a place in an undesirable spot? I wouldn't. Now look at another house that just got sold. James Lockey, 1125 Main Street. It's right across from the ball field next to the vegetable stand. He just bought a bigger house, moved. That was his starter home. He fixed it up, sold it, went to a bigger house. Solar farm right behind him, transmission lines running right through his property. When the real estate man took it, he had two people who wanted to buy it. They started bidding against each other, and he got more money than he was asking. I don't think the solar farm was helping any, but it surely didn't hurt him. I hear people saying lies, 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 and you say it doesn't hurt. I think this is pretty well proof. Now the windmills. There was an article in the paper against them, saying that people in Hopkinton concurred, they didn't want them. Well, I haven't been asked, and I don't want nobody to speak for me. I'll speak for myself. I haven't heard of anybody else being asked about windmills. Just so happens I have a friend that's right near a windmill. His name's Carl Passarelli. And I asked if I could use his name and address. He said yes. 9 Victory Highway, West Greenwich. He's on the Coventry-West Greenwich line. Look out his kitchen window, and there's a huge windmill right out there. It looks like it's in his backyard. It's not, it's further away, but it's so big it looks like it's right there. I said, Carl, does that bother you? No. Does it make you sick? No. Or any noise? Yeah, he says, when the wind is right, I hear a little whooshing, but he says you get used to it real quick. It doesn't bother me. My wife doesn't even hear it. I know another fellow lives near that mill, a little further away. He didn't want his name used, so I'm not going to use it. He had no problem with it. Middletown's got them, Johnston's got them, Cranston's got them, Wickford's got them. I haven't heard nobody getting sick from a windmill. I think people, some of the councils use their own prejudice against it. The council's job is to look after the town, including property values and also the fiscal health. I'm going to ask some information from you. How much does it cost to run a town per taxpayer? Now, I know you got the schools, but you also got police, you got town highway, you got fire departments, you donate to libraries. So what's the total price?
The budget of the town,
Per taxpayer.
I don't know per taxpayer, but I know what the budget
I
is.
would guess it'd be around 20,000 maybe. Maybe I'm lying.
Divided by 8,000 people approximately. 26 million divided by 8,000 people.
I know the taxes in this town, about 75% goes to education, 25 goes to general government.
Right, I want to know the total.
3170 is what it comes out.
31,070. Per person. There are 8,000 people, 26 million, 31,000 per person.
3100.
3,100 per person.
You're talking kids and everything.
Yeah,
I'm talking
approximately
taxpayers.
8,000 citizens.
I don't know.
Well, it costs, you're telling me it costs 15,000 to 18,000 to educate a kid. And I'm just going to guess now, it must be another couple thousand for the police department and so forth. So all these new houses are going, there's going to be 140 going up Rushing Road. You'll be getting the things pretty quick about it. I'm going to guess high. Maybe they're going to pay $10,000 tax. Where are you going to get the rest? Who's coming up with the rest of the money?
I just want to,
Well, it's probably over the phone, Scott, but I'll take your information. If you need me to get answers, I'll get answers for you.
Okay.
We're in touch all the time, so.
Now on my road, 138, there's 6 houses going up. Right now. There's a 17-acre parcel for sale. I imagine a developer will get it. A 36-acre parcel just got sold. One house went up on 4-some acres. The 30-some acres, there's a little housing development right before it. He bought it, and I presume he's going to build houses in that 30-some acres. So you're talking quite a few houses just in that area alone.
Thank you.
reconvene as a liquor board, licensing board.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Class B.
Class B.
Wait, no.
It's Class A. Oh, excuse me, no, it is B. Hey, Danny, you'd be happy to know nobody had any complaints about your restaurant today.
Thank you.
I move that we approve the license for the Class B license for Lucky House Restaurant, subject to all state and town regulations being met and all town taxes current prior to issue.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Dan.
We'd like to
The
get,
victual.
we'd like to make a motion to renew the victualling license for Lucky House Restaurant, subject to all state and town regulations being met and all town taxes current prior to issue.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Danny, you can leave now. Motion to...
No, before we do the licensing numbers, how do we treat the boneyard that it's tabled? We still count them when we do the totals?
As far as the
We have to,
limit.
yeah, as far as setting limits, do we,
It's up to you. I mean,
well, they have a license
presumably,
up till it runs out.
right, until it expires.
Okay, so they should be counted, correct?
It's fine to count.
Okay.
I just would recommend against taking any action on their license they haven't applied for.
Right.
So we'll make a motion to set the limit on liquor licenses, Class A 2, Class B being limited 1, and Class B being 5.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Wait a minute, you didn't set them. Oh, you did? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Okay.
Now adjourn as licensing board and reconvene as a council.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, sorry for that interruption. Public forum. Yep, we'll take one at a time. Okay, Joe.
Joe Moreau, Old Depot Road.
Okay.
There's a lot of new residents here, and I'm not ready to speak now, but I just want to explain that, Frank had mentioned about the public forum. This is your opportunity to come up here and let the council know exactly how you feel about basically anything. I would assume there's a lot of people here from Maxon Hill. The only way they'll know how you feel is you need to come up here. Name and address is very easy. And just explain what the situation is. You're entitled to that right to come up and speak, and I would encourage you to do that, please. I'll be back.
Tim, you're again.
Good evening. Tim Ward, 42 River Road, Ashway. I'll start off by saying, first of all, if I were looking for a new home in Hopkinton or any other town, no matter what my budget was, I would not purchase a home next to a solar farm. Secondly, I asked the council pretty close to a month ago, and Mr. Calvo, you had answered that no, in fact, the council had not come up with a plan yet as far as a budget connected to the solar funds that are purportedly generated, and that you wished you had been able to have some discussion along those lines. It's been roughly a month or so now, so I'm curious how those talks are coming, and do we have a plan moving forward for how much is enough for solar as far as our budgetary needs and so on. Originally, it was stated that this was essentially to fund the Chariho school system, and I'm curious if we now have a plan moving forward.
As far as I know, we do not.
Well, Tim,
We deal with that in January and February when we do a budget. We do.
Personally, I've written an op-ed in the Western Sun where I feel we have done enough solar. We have replaced our usage in Hopkinton by 80%. We have approved 80 megawatts and our Hopkinton uses 99. So I think we've approved enough solar projects without having to approve future ones in residential areas. That was my statement. That's the way I feel.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
I did write an op-ed about the revenue generation from them, and I can send it to you, and then we can talk offline as much as you want about my concerns about the school bill.
And that's great, but I would like to know that our town, moving forward, as these proposals come before you, has a vision and a plan, financially speaking, because that was the largest justification for these in the past meetings. I'd like to know that there is a plan and what the end game is and what that plan looks like in details.
I'd like to suggest that the manager ask the tax assessor to do an upgrade on the letters. We had a few months back, had been given a summary of the revenue sources that were coming in due to solar, every single one and how much more we were receiving. And so we've had those documents in the past, and I think it's time to update it because the tax assessor is back, she was out. So that letter would come in within a week, do you think? Should we get that done? Yeah, and we could, Lisa, could you make that available to anybody in the public who wants a copy of that letter?
Yes.
Thank you. I mean, essentially, it does seem like, as far as financing the school system is sort of a tiger's tail that you will chase to infinity. So at what point do we say enough is enough
January 22nd
on
says
solar?
Remember the January 22nd ordinance? So there's no more proposals that can come in residential areas after January 22nd. So that's how
I hope,
we
Mrs.
put our
Thompson,
feet down.
and I hope, Mrs. Thompson, that you're speaking for the entire council.
We all,
At this point,
all
yes.
5 of us voted for that
We all
ordinance.
supported the reduction on
Yeah.
January 22nd.
That's
But at
right.
the last council meeting, that was not the case.
Well, it was 4-1, we can't help that.
Right.
But it
So,
was still 4-1.
thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
I would like to comment that the absurdity is the fact that Councilor Davis and I have repeatedly have said no. And the way zoning operates in this town is any landowner can do anything that that zone allows. There was no reason for the town council of this town legally, as far as I know, and get a lady, and correct me if I'm wrong, to approve some of these solar projects. Sharon Davis and I, and we represent 2 different parties, said no. And I can just say that the vote on Maxon Hill probably would have been different, but I can't comment because it's in litigation. The fact of the matter is that the public should have turned out earlier, but the fact is, write all your letters, the horse is out of the barn, and hopefully it's not going to be any worse than it is. But I'm good. Okay. I'm sorry.
Anyone else? Yes. Try and,
You're not going to tell me to be brief, man.
5 minutes or less, 5 minutes or less, my friend. Just like everyone else. You guys are winning.
I have some concerns and I have some informational questions that I want to clear up. And I have a copy of the open meeting law with me, just because I think there's been some confusion about that in the past. It does state that any member of the public may, any member of the public body may respond to comments by a member of the public, including answering questions for informational purposes only, so we tripped over that before. First of all, last week ago on Monday, there was a very confusing hearing, another one of the solar hearings for Atlantic Solar Main Street, and the matter was tabled. I don't know what that means. The developer came in at the last minute and wanted to add a 4th property, seeking a comprehensive plan amendment and zoning amendment. You can't do any of those things without going through the planning board and a series of steps and making an application. I think everybody agreed pretty much, and the town solicitor advised that that was true. But my question is, now what? I don't know what it means. The meeting wasn't continued, the meeting was tabled. I'm here as a member of the public, and we gave you a petition of 168 people that protested the project, included 20 others. So my question is, how are you going to determine how to proceed, and how do we find out about it? Because we didn't continue a meeting and set a date, and I'm left here wondering how you're going to act and how we're going to proceed. Can you clarify that?
Yeah, good question. So I know, well, I guess Kevin, you can certainly respond. I know that, once it's tabled, from my understanding was the project was submitted was different than what came out at that.
The added property.
Right. So obviously that could change things, right? So that's why we tabled it. I guess if they don't revert back to the original plan, it's my understanding that we'd have a choice as a legislative body to decision that project.
So it looks like Mr. McAllister wants to comment. Is that
Yeah,
okay?
so anyway.
I just want to assure the public, and you, since you asked the question, that nothing is going to happen further on that project unless and until it's fully advertised. If my advice is followed, which it often is, usually is.
So you mean like re-notice and re-advertise?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So if your concern is that something's going to just resume in the dark or with no one knowing, that's not going to happen.
Can I just ask a clarification on that? When you say nothing's going to happen on that project, do you mean no more site work is going to continue like has been going on?
Let's make sure we're talking about the same project.
Different one.
This is not Maxon we're talking
This
about.
is Range Zero.
This is a new application that was interrupted. Mr. Bibb was referring to a new application at a different location that was interrupted Monday night in the middle of a public hearing. So there was a table, which is a kind of a procedural mechanism, which basically said, okay, time out, we're not doing anything further on this until further notice. And that's the status, but there'll be full advertising, including individual mailings to the abutters if my advice is followed. That's what I've done.
That's what I presumed, but I just wanted to know how you...
I don't want anybody to worry.
Okay, all right. And then, so I'm sorry it took some time with that, but I know a lot of people were into it. I want to know the answer to that question. My main concern tonight is my concerns for the Maxon Hill project. I went over and I shot some pictures of it, trespassed on the property. I see Chief Palmer here. I don't know, maybe you can take it this, but I basically walked the site and just tried to take some pictures. I didn't disturb anything. Didn't put any sugar in the gas tanks of the equipment or anything like that. And it's extremely disturbing, and one of the most disturbing things is I just want to ask the town council to either verify this or certainly follow up on it. Down along the southern exposure of the property, there are a lot of stakes banded into the ground, and they've cut the trees virtually right up to the property lines. I paced off the stakes, it's about 30 feet. Now, I can't believe that the buffer on the plan was supposed to be 30 feet, but they've torn it up all the way within 30 feet. And there's one...
About the stakes, by the way,
what's that?
about the stakes, just so
Yeah.
you'll know, because I asked the stakes that you're specifically
Yeah.
talking about. That's not the property line?
No. The stakes are within 30 feet of the property line.
Oh.
And they tore it up all the way to the stakes, basically. And there's one, I shot the footage and somebody else sent me said, hey, I have a picture of the before picture. If you look at that little video and you see this shot of this display that wasn't very complimentary to the town council that's in the foreground, and you see this dense tree line, screening his property, and now there's just about a half a dozen pitiful trees, and he's looking through. I I don't care if you put up 6-foot shrubs. The difference between what he had and what he's looking at is pretty horrible. And if you go down the line, you see some of the other margins, and certainly if you just drive around on the street, it's just kind of horrific. So I'm going to give you some material tonight. This developer, we don't really even know who owns the project, but the developer that's out there with his logo on all the trucks and everything has a pretty horrendous reputation for ignoring rules, laws, regulations, and including DEM regulations. And I'll give you that information. So I want the town council to be particularly vigilant. I think it's probably too late in that instance, but we're making aware of that. And then the other thing is that, you know, I've been hearing this rumor for a while that, last couple of weeks, that there's a closing that's imminent, you know, on a change in ownership of the project, right? But every time I ask somebody who tells me that and seems knowledgeable about it, and this is a question, I say, who's selling what to whom, you know? And no one knows the answer to that question. And this project was essentially agreed to be sold twice before this, and it fell through in both instances, and I've documented those. One of them was in a lawsuit, and one of them was in the minutes of the Rhode Island Airport Authority. So there have been 2 false starts already, but the reason this is really relevant, and I'm bringing this to your attention, I think this is important to you, there's a very substantial risk here to the town because of the fact that this project is in litigation. We can disagree about the merits. I'm not a litigant. You can disagree about the merits of the complaint, but previously I know that you were, or I have been told that you were advised that it was without merit and would be dismissed. That didn't happen. On October 21st, the Superior Court judge allowed it to proceed, and it will go to trial. So I think that the elements of the complaint are extremely substantive, and now's not the time to talk about them, and you don't want to talk about them anyway, but here's what I want to highlight for you. And I don't know that you're aware of this, even though this is an element of that complaint, and it has been brought up many, many times over the past year. So I have in my hand the ordinance, the PSCS ordinance, the old one, which is identical to the new one in the section. I'm going to read you one sentence. And it says, under Planning Board Review, Section D, the prospective owner of a proposed PSES shall be the only party eligible to submit an application to the Planning Board seeking development plan approval for a proposed PSES. The prospective owner of a proposed PSES shall be referred to herein as the applicant. Okay? That's how that works. Old ordinance, new ordinance is the same. I'm going to give you these. The second document here is a copy of the application that was filed for this project. And it is dated December 28, 2017. And the applicant is Rhode Island Solar Renewable Energy. Okay? And that was an LLC that was owned and established by Anthony Del Vicario. We all know who Mr. Del Vicario is. Okay? December 28th, dated the application. But what I also have for you is a letter of revocation from the state of Rhode Island, and they revoked the certification of Mr. Del Vicario's LLC, Rhode Island Solar Renewable, on December 1st, 2017, a month before he applied. Okay? So he applied for this zone change and comp plan change with an entity that was not certified to do business in the state of Rhode Island. Now, we raised this previously, and it came up, I think, at the hearing last October 2018, and the attorney for Mr. Del Vicario said, well, that's easily rectified. You know, we can always reinstate the LLC, that's not a problem. But what I have in my hand here is a search of all corporate entities related to one Anthony Del Vicario that I did this weekend, right? And he has 9 of them that he has established at different points in time. Some of them are very old. And he has exactly 0 LLCs that are currently certified to do business in the state of Rhode Island. And he has 9 of them for which certification has been revoked for failure to state a place of business and failure to file annual reports and failure to pay his fees, okay? And that includes this one, Rhode Island Solar Renewable LLC. So I think it is a point, now that's just one element of the legal challenge, But I think we can all, well, maybe Mr. McAllister will disagree, but I think it seems on its face that an entity that's defunct, that's not authorized to do business in the state of Rhode Island, that takes out an application to do something like this, and now, I guess, because it's the applicant and the owner of the PSES, right? The other entity, Maxon Land LLC, is the owner of the property underneath it. So, I mean, I think it certainly could be called, it is being currently called into question as to whether all of these transactions are legitimate. And two, I forgot to mention, but I'll just mention them because you have them. Here's the Planning Board advisory opinion. Now, we just talked about Atlantic, and they can't add a fourth property because they have to go to the Planning Board first, and they have to get an advisory opinion. This is the advisory opinion that was granted to approve, I mean, to disapprove unanimously the project you ultimately approved, but to disapprove, have a negative advisory opinion for an applicant that doesn't exist. So, I mean, I don't think any applicant that's certified to do business in the state of Rhode Island actually completed this step. And then you have your ordinance, I think it's 260, and I have a copy here. And here's your ordinance. And you voted that on May 21st, 2018. And your ordinance references comprehensive plan future land use map amendment and zoning ordinance amendment filed by Rhode Island Solar Renewable Energy LLC, an entity that's defunct and doesn't exist for all intents and purposes. So your approval, you approved an application by an entity that doesn't exist, and now that entity that doesn't exist, I don't know who's doing what to whom, but I think that is the seller for green energy development. So I've gone over my time, and I'm just going to hand you two other things here. There was a lot of news with green energy development last summer and last year. And you might know that in Coventry, green energy, this is the guy with all the trucks running around and all the equipment ripping down the trees. He applied to the planning board for approval of a project in Coventry. And he asked for a comp plan amendment. It's just identical to what's going on here. And the planning board said no. And he said, thank you very much. And he went out and he cut down all the trees. And he bulldozed the site. The planning board said no, he got nothing. And then he went out and he started pounding in all the posts for all the solar panels. No building permit, nothing. Then the town issued a cease and desist to Green Energy, and he said, okay, thank you for your opinion, and he continued to put in the posts for the solar panels, and they ultimately had to go to Superior Court and get the Superior Court to tell him, you gotta cut that out. You can't do that. You don't have a building permit, and you got a denial, not an approval. And that's what we're dealing with, and ultimately 1 month later, I have these articles for you, the Superior Court upheld the planning board, and his project was denied. And along the way, it mentions the fact that he racked up $40,000 worth of fines with DEM, pretty substantial fines. And it references, this is a news article from last summer, it references multiple visits by DEM. Doesn't this sound familiar from anybody that went to the hearing on September 23rd of a local resident here who applied for a project, and DEM went out several times and said, you got to stop doing that. And he said, okay, thank you, and DEM left, and he continued doing exactly what he was doing, right? Until, I mean, some of these guys just consider this, you know, a cost of doing business. So, everything I referenced is right here. I made one copy for the town council. I hope the clerk can make them for you. And what I would really love is I really want to not only refer to these things, but I'd like the minutes to include the materials that I submitted, so if you could scan them and attach them to the minutes so they're part of the record, I would really appreciate that.
Okay, thanks. I think it's probably a good time to bring Jim Lanfield up just to talk about some of the stuff that's going on with 310 Maxon that we've been involved in behind the scenes to try and hopefully help the situation out, and Jim's here to kind of just respond to some of the inquiries that have been made tonight about the project itself. Jim, please.
For those of you who don't know, I'm Jim Lamphere, your town planner. Due to the number of emails that have come across my desk, I kind of got wind that there might
Hey, folks.
Tell them there's some seating up front.
I found out that there were people urging the citizenry to come out tonight and express their viewpoints on a number of solar projects. And so I thought that maybe my appearance tonight might help to provide some solace or a level of comfort as to what's happening today with solar development activity in town. And to assure the citizenry that the staff is on top of all of these projects, monitoring them, and we know what's happening on a daily basis. First thing I'd like to tell the public is the fact of the matter is we have an approved solar project for 310 Maxon Hill Road. And now that we are at that point, the role of town staff is to make sure that that plan is followed in detail, as well as all the other pertinent laws and rules and regulations that the town has with development are followed as well. And I can tell you that with respect to this Maxon Hill Road project, myself and the building and zoning official held a pre-construction meeting with the developer on October the 7th, which went very well. I must say, in all honesty, the developer brought a fine, accommodative attitude to the table. And at that time expressed a desire to have all truck traffic to go in and out from the site onto Route 3. When
It's not happening.
We know, let him
I'm aware of
finish
that.
this.
When it came to the town's attention that the developer was using Maxon Hill Road for truck traffic, we immediately convened a meeting with the developer, went over the plans, and we searched for alternate pathways by which all the truck traffic could be contained on the site. We found an existing farm road. It's been there for a long time. It's lined on both sides with stone walls, so it's not something that was fabricated yesterday. It's been there for years. We met with the DEM last Friday on site. Marty Wensink, the head of the wetland division. We walked the site, town manager, council president, myself, and we all got muddy shoes. It was wet. However, the observation from DEM was that this road could be modified on a temporary basis such that truck traffic could enter and exit the site and take everything out on Route 3. At the conclusion of the construction, the farm road will be restored to its previous condition and allowed to revegetate on its own. So therefore, I would say within probably a week from now, you should not see any truck traffic related to the construction of that solar site on Maxon Hill Road. Everything is going to come in and out on Route 3. The other thing I can tell you is that from my observations, I've looked at the plans carefully. It appears to me that the developer has adhered to the limits of clearing that are on the plan. It was mentioned earlier today, 30 feet within a property. They can go 25 feet to the side yard setback. That's the limit under our zoning. So
I got 10 feet.
I get trees
Let's,
on my
folks,
phone.
hey guys, come on. Let's let the planner finish, and then you guys have a chance to speak.
So, what I can tell the public right here and now is that up until this point, I feel as though the developer is working with us to get the project done in accordance with the representations they made before the council and the planning board to have all truck traffic go in and out of Route 3, as well as the approved plan. That's basically all the town can do at this point, is hold the developer to adhere to the plan that was approved by the town. Beyond that, we can meet with them, talk with them, discuss issues, and try to get them to modify things in a good way for the citizenry. But So I'm going to continue to monitor the site. Every Friday I have a meeting. I've had 2 so far at the site. I have a construction meeting, and I'm giving a tour. I'm giving an update as to what they've done over the past week, what they're going to do over the next week upcoming. So I'm on top of the project, as well as the other 18 and 19 that we've approved. I'm watching all of them, along with our building and zoning department. And I think we're doing a pretty good job, to be honest with you. I wouldn't, I'm sure we have little issues that will be resolved here and there, but for the most part, I think we're in very good shape. And I'd like to invite, I know there's probably a number of you that have specific issues regarding this project, and if it helps matters any, I can offer you the services of my office. Give me an email concerning your concerns. Come into my office and I'll sit down at the table and I'll go over the plans with you and I'll show you what they're approved to do. And you can tell me where they're not adhering. So we can have a two-way conversation. When I get complaints or concerns on the telephone, I respond to them immediately along with the other departments. And so we can all of us can get through this together as best we can. And then hopefully that will maybe cut down a number of questions tonight. I'm not going to dissuade anyone from coming up here and speak their mind. That's what the purpose of this is. But I just want to extend an open invitation to anyone to come in, talk it over with me, and whenever I need to, I will go to the developers and make sure that they adhere to these plans. There's a number of developers that know that when I go out there, I mean business, and they will adhere to it. Now, one other thing I might mention. I know everyone is concerned about the clearing that's taking place out there. I agree, it doesn't look like it did, that's for sure. There will be a tremendous amount of planting to be done in the spring, and again, in my office I have a plan set of landscape plans. I can show you where the vegetation is going to be put in, where the fencing is going to be put in, and we'll go through everything. But right now, it's a construction project in progress, okay? Don't view it as an endpoint where we are today. There's a lot of vegetation going to be put in along Route 3, along Maxon Hill Road, and along all the butters. So, and I just want to mention, I'm not a proponent of this project, nor am I, a detractor of it. I'm neutral on the project. I'm working for you folks to make sure that this project is done in as good a way as possible. And so, with that.
Does anybody have any regarding the 310 Main? I know there's a bunch of folks here regarding that project. Any specific questions for the planner? Because he'd probably be able to answer them for you. Yes, Justin. Justin, one second.
For quick clarification, come up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I come back up again?
Yeah.
I just had a quick question, because there are a lot of new people that I don't recognize that I know that come this evening. And I may have this incorrect, but I believe that there still has yet to be the final plan approval for Maxon Hill project. It's been approved through multiple stages, but I believe there's no money in escrow yet. It's just confusing that a project can begin technically before the final plans are in. I mean, I couldn't build a shed without following all of it. I'm just confused on that. Thank you.
Thanks.
The final plan has been approved by the planning board. It's my understanding that they have a building permit approved by the building and zoning department. They have posted a performance bond in the amount of $270,000. And what is that? That is something that was imposed on the developer by the planning board to ensure that the project is done per plan. So we have $270,000 to assure that will be implemented. The decommissioning bond has not actually been put in place right now. I'm working with the solicitor to have $264,500 put in to decommission the project. And then Wednesday night, the planning board is going to talk with the developer about posting a reforestation bond to reforest the property at the end of its life cycle. So, I can assure you that everything that needs to be put in place is either in the process of being put in place or has been put in place, or in the event of things that haven't, I can assure you that they will be put in place before any electricity is turned on at site. it'll be done properly.
Any other questions for the planner, folks, regarding that project?
What are your hours? What are your hours?
My office hours are 8:30 in the morning to 4:30 in the afternoon.
And where is the office?
Second floor over the post office, next building over. Now, please, I would urge anyone to give me a call first. Let me know when you plan to come, and I'll make it my business to be there. Because I am in and out, out in the field, here, there, and everywhere. But let me know and make an appointment with me, and we'll go answer any question you have.
Jim, give them their phone number.
Yeah, my phone number is 377-7770.
Yes, the gentleman there in the blue.
You mentioned that Maxon Hill Road was to not be used, or truck traffic and Route 3 was to be used, correct?
Correct.
But in the meantime, until this farm road is cleared and they're able to use Route 3, they are allowed to continue to use Maxon Hill Road. I've seen trucks go down Diamond Hill also.
They're going to.
Yeah, they're just,
It would be logging trucks when I
Yeah, so, I mean,
Diamond
that's-
Hill Road, Collins Road, they're all
Collins
over.
Road, Diamond Hill.
The big logging, the big logging.
So my question is they should wait until they have access that's approved.
Make them stop.
I mean,
Make them
that's
stop.
just right. I mean,
Make
that's
them
just.
stop. Make them stop.
I mean, if it's a safety issue and you're gonna wait a week, well, what if something happens in that bit? I mean, that just doesn't make sense. It makes no sense at
They
all.
agreed not to do it in the first place.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
right. So you're not really doing it. Just make them stop. Make them stop.
Right around school time.
Yeah, they're up 7 o'clock in the morning, it's still dark out.
Oh,
It's-
yeah,
You've
one at
got
a time,
some,
folks.
you've got some money in escrow, okay? And this is an intangible damage that's occurring. And it would be my vote that we find a way to tie a dollar amount to breaking the rule.
Yeah.
that's fine.
I'm all for finding people, by the way. I think that's where we get our money to run the town.
Yeah, I know, well, obviously,
Well, those are good thoughts. Those are good thoughts, and I suppose we could attempt to.
What's one more week for that? What's one more week to finish that road? That makes absolutely no sense.
Election day is coming.
I believe they're already starting to lay down whatever it is that they need to as far as the gravel and the sediment controls.
Yes, they've actually already started to prepare the farm road. They put down some gravel and some
Hey,
matting.
folks, one at a time, please. So, yeah, so, we can certainly try. I mean, it's a valid point, you know.
I'd like to offer that, I just want to offer that the developer, Tony Del Vicario, I talked to him on the weekend, and what he's determined to do is have a meeting with anyone who wants to attend here at the town hall or at the school if necessary, so that he can meet with the property owners and abutters and neighbors head-on and find out what's going wrong, what he's going to do to correct it, and what he's planning on the future, and what the concerns are. So there will be a meeting in this sometime in November. I'm not sure how he'll notify everybody. I guess that's his issue, but he wants to meet with you head-on.
Is that in that fraudulent?
That's Tony Del Vicario. I don't know that he did anything fraudulent, but he's bringing the engineer, he's bringing everybody down so that you can meet with him and everybody. So that's a positive step, whether you like it.
With those, hold on. Sylvia, enough with this, a workshop, let's not go there right at this point.
I just wanted to.
No, I know, but it's not a good idea at this point.
So whose job is it to make sure that the developers are doing what they say
The
they're
planner
going
and the
to?
building inspector.
Okay, so if the developer said he wasn't going to use that street, why is he using that street?
Right.
If it's your
You
job,
work for us, you said.
if it's your job to make sure he's doing what he says, and not chopping down too many trees, and not using roads that he's supposed to, why is he allowed to do that?
Using Maxon Hill instead of.
Yeah.
You know, well, as I said, as soon as we got news of him using Maxon Hill Road, we initiated a meeting with them, convened it with DEM. Now, to do what is necessary to keep all truck traffic on the lot, okay? we had to get DEM down here to issue an approval. So that took time to do that. We didn't waste any time.
So he should have stopped
Why
all
was-
traffic during that time period.
Okay, that's reasonable to say, but I'll tell you, from my vantage point, you always have to think about the practical nature of things. You can attempt to throw a hammer down on somebody, but I think it's only fair that when someone attempts to work with you cooperatively, that you give this similar consideration. Now, we could take action. First of all, I can't shut anybody down myself. I don't have that authority or power. I have to talk with our solicitor, Kevin McAllister, on that one, our building and zoning department. So to put restrictions of that nature in place, you're starting to go into a legal area, okay, which could subject the town to a lot of legal fees in court, in the courtroom. If something like this was fought in a courtroom.
But they're breaking the agreement already.
Let me just say this. Let me say again. I'm not going to defend the developers, but let me talk to you about where we are with this. Okay? It was represented by the person who came, David Russo from Decreed Engineering, made the statement when they came before the council to get approval that all truck traffic would go in and out on Route 3. We now have another entity which is taking over the construction, was not a part of the original approval. Even in the pre-construction meeting with me, it was their intent. It was their intent to use the truck traffic off of Route 3. Okay, it was not a condition. It's a little bit of a weak argument. It never was a condition of approval by the town council nor the planning board that all truck traffic. This is something that the applicant themselves offered. They offered it themselves, verbally. So I guess the question is, now again, and this is something that could be fought out in a courtroom if you want to take it there. It's going to cost the town money to do it. But suppose I go into a courtroom and let's say I was a developer, I'll role play a little bit. I say, yeah, I had every intention of taking all my trucks in and out of Route 3. But once I get on the site, problems developed that were unforeseen that precluded me from doing so. So I started doing something else. Okay? Was it a condition? Is it absolutely a necessity that I had to take trucks in and out on Route 3? I don't see where it was a condition of approval. Myself, I'm just playing devil's advocate with you now, right here. But when I have a developer that I'm working with in a cooperative manner who has to go out, who estimated to me, this is his estimate, it's going to cost me $230,000 to modify that farm road to get the trucks up and down, but I'm willing to do it to keep the trucks. He says, I didn't want to use Maxon Hill Road. It's the only way I can get him in there without using that farm road. I have a developer working cooperative with our office in the town. Am I gonna cut him slack for a couple of days? I can urge him to minimize the traffic on the road. I want to say this. Most of the clearing on that site, you people are probably aware of it already. Most of the clearing is already done. Okay? The developer told me today that the clearing, he said, most of the clearing should be all done. Cutting of trees should be all done by the end of this week. Done. So what is there to gain? Do you want to fight a battle with the developer over a few days? Now that's a decision that I'm not going to
My
make.
question was just, if it's in the agreement, why
wasn't,
are we
that's not-
signing it? That was my
But
question.
initially it was saying that it was an agreement.
It said that was
So,
the
no, it
agreement.
wasn't.
That was
It
all my
verbal.
question.
It wasn't in the planning board or the town council's
But
decision.
that's how it was
The way it was
represented.
presented to us just now, it came across to the people in the
Yes,
audience that was part of the agreement.
It was a
That's how
verbal,
it
it
was
wasn't in the
ordered.
decision process.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. So lesson learned then, I would say, I would encourage the town council to look into investing monies then to have somebody as like a special agent when these contracts come before us to look out for things like that, because maybe that should have been in the original agreement. We're in over our heads. These guys have more money than God, and they can just keep throwing lawsuits and money at us. And we can't win that.
Let's just ask them to stop. Let's just ask them, that's all.
But I'm thinking future, I'm not even thinking next. I'm thinking all the other ones in the pipeline. we're in over our heads. Not, no offense to you, but
I will request tomorrow that the developer refrain from any truck traffic on Maxon Hill Road until that farm road is back in business.
I
And
mean,
we'll see what he says.
honestly,
Okay?
you were a busy man before all this solar stuff started. So now to put this on your plate with no additional eyes and specialty knowledge as it relates to these, what hope do we have? I mean, really?
Oh, I think Jim gets more aggressive with every project that's put on his desk.
Well, it's not about Jim, this is about Jim. This is about helping Jim, this is about helping the Jim.
I just want to say one thing. It's not about me, but I'll tell you what, we have a top-notch engineering firm, Crossman Engineering. And one of the conditions that the planning board did put on this is that during construction, there'll be periodic inspections, as we've had on the Alton Bradford Road site, Palmer Circle site. I can call upon Crossman Engineering to go out there tomorrow morning and make an inspection. So believe me when I tell you, this project will be scrutinized very well. And our engineers will be on top of it. I can certainly request, I mean, I hate to, again, you know, there's a legal mechanism and there's a practical mechanism. And when I'm working cooperatively with somebody in a good-natured manner, I don't want to spoil that relationship, because I'll tell you, you got to be careful about ruining relationships. Once they're ruined, they're awful tough to get back. And you know what? They can play hardball in many other areas that I might not have control over. So these are judgment calls you have to make. Do you want to sacrifice a couple of extra days of truck traffic and continue that good relationship or not? And these are easy things to make, decisions to make, and your point is very well taken. But
It's only another question for Jim. Question.
Yep.
The limits of clearing of 25 feet, where, is that in an ordinance? Was that part of the approval? Was that part of the planning board process? How did we come up with a 25-foot clearing?
those are the setbacks for the commercial zone.
So there was
25-foot yard side back.
Okay.
Side yard
So
setback.
that's for the zone, that's.
That is in zoning
So was there
regulations.
never, so neither the planning board nor the town council never gave any thought to any buffer greater than 25 feet as a condition to the approval and decimated all those trees virtually right up to people's property lines? Because 25 feet is not a buffer, is not a screen. So was there never any discussion in the town council and planning board level or any condition of approval for anything more than 25 feet? If not, we've gone through several other proposals that have been a lot more than that. And 25 feet is really exceeds in terms of the.
Yeah, they did consider more buffers, and there is one issue that they haven't really complied with yet, that they're gonna, I haven't even talked to them about it yet, but I'll spring it on them tomorrow, is that they were supposed to get, according to the planning board condition of approval, they are supposed to get the town zoning officer to rule whether a access road is a structure, and if it is, it may require a further kickback from the property line. So, and if that happens, that's going to cut into the number of solar panels. So that will be, again, I'm on top of every single condition that's been imposed, and they're going to adhere by it. Tomorrow morning, they're going to find out from me. They have to go to the zoning official. I'm kind of surprised they didn't, because when they applied for a building permit, the same department, and they're represented by competent legal staff. That legal staff should have saw the condition and sought an opinion from the zoning official on that particular issue, and that will be investigated tomorrow. And if it requires moving that access road further back from the property line, then that's what's going to be done, because that was a condition of approval.
Jim, what about those stone walls that are abutted, the property stone walls that they're decimating, because they're knocking the trees down and pulling the trees over, and they're trashing the stone walls that were always there? There's just laws on that too, I think.
Yeah,
And I don't know how, yeah,
I
it's
noticed-
happened on ours.
I went out there twice today, actually, and I looked at what they've cleared, and They must have done it either last Thursday or Friday.
Yeah, we have pictures
But-
of the ones that they.
But to the left, on the far left, if you're looking
89, yeah.
into the property, on the far left, they cleared an area where National Grid is going to interconnect. And so, yeah, they cleared, like was said, to 25 feet of the property line. There's a stone wall there. Now that section of the project was reviewed by the planning board. There is going to be a wooden fence that goes down the length of all of those property owners on that side, okay? As well as a wooden fence along the entire length of Maxon Hill Road, okay? And in addition to the wooden fence, there's going to be vegetation that's planted to provide additional screening. So there is going to be a tremendous amount of planting put in after, when they get to that point in the spring. But again, I will investigate where this access road, is it a structure, number one, we got to find out, is it a structure? And if it is, must it be 100 foot back from the property line? And if that's the case, the ruling by our zoning official, then that's where it's going. And they're going to get some bad news from me when they have to move their panels. But that's the way it goes.
That's my question, is if you have setback lines for 25 feet, are those just the side setbacks, or are they the front setbacks as well?
No, the front setback for that particular zone is 60 feet.
Correct.
The rear setback, which is along Maxon Hill Road, 50 feet. Now, they did provide 60 on their plans, okay? So they got 60, 60, and side yards are 25 feet.
Right.
Now, those are the setbacks. We also have an additional table in the zoning ordinance that says no commercial or manufacturing structure, key word here, structure, is to be closer than 100 feet to a property line. So, if that access road is deemed to be a structure by our zoning official, all right, and she rules that, makes those decisions, right? If it is, then we'll have to kick all that material back 100 feet from where it is. Now, right now, the road, I measured it just now, the near edge of the road, I think, is like about 90 feet. So they'll have to move this access road maybe 15 to 20 feet at the worst case.
Okay, I have one more question for you. With all of the soil that they strip mined out of that lot, all of the lots on Maxon Hill Road, can they facilitate berms before they do vegetation so that we're not seeing from Route 3 the strip mined lots that they've already done? Berm it like they did in North Kingston, where they put in the shopping plazas all along Newcomb Road. They put berms there, and then they planted vegetation. Well, when you plant vegetation, it depends on the age of the vegetation that you're going to plant there. So if you're going to plant little tiny shrubs, like I have, and I've lived in my house for 15 years, which now they're just coming to semi-maturity. So now if I'm part of the Main Street abutter group, and if I would have modified any of the wetlands, I would have been deemed by DEM to replace the actual age of the vegetation that I removed, or I would have been fined had I modified any of my wetlands. And the wetlands that are designated, very hard to distinguish where the line of the wetlands are. They did say that, yes, they've marked out safely where the wetlands are going to be. However, on my property, I'm finding wetland creatures because I have a slope on my property, but I'm up high enough on elevation that I'm not going to have to worry about water runoff coming into my house. But the neighbor on the south side of me, they're at a different elevation, and they're in jeopardy of having their basement flooded. And I also know that there are problems with other projects where other people have had their houses and their properties flooded. So I don't know what's going to happen there, and I don't know what's going to happen with my project, but I didn't sign up to live next to a power plant either.
Well, with that, I can only say that Crossland Engineering peer-reviewed this project. And there are detention ponds for stormwater associated with it. Our town engineer it coincided with their plan.
So we're gonna have to worry about those ponds being stagnant water from more mosquitoes.
There's no more bats.
Jim, could I just make a comment in support of what you're trying to accomplish, and the comments being made are very valuable, that this entity called an engineering solar array is an extremely complex system with many variables which we as a town have not considered. And you as a planning person with a wealth of knowledge you have not confronted it yet either. And so the learning curve here is geometric in terms of what you have to pick up. Wouldn't it be wise to formulate a subcommittee that has experience in this area, that can be a guide to the town, and in particular go to parking, because the retention ponds, the amount of angulation that slope might take, a rainstorm, which is a heavy rainstorm, is different from one in a retention pond than one which is light and manageable by the pond. There are some rainstorms which, I don't care what kind of retention pond you put in, they're going to overtop those. So you're looking at this constant double guessing on your part, which is so difficult for you, given all your other objectives and responsibilities. I think the town has a responsibility to the community, to the citizens, to formulate, sit and bring in the wise people that you have, such as Mr. Lidler over here, who has given you immense knowledge of all the things that can go wrong, and Murphy's Law tells us they will, and then sit peacefully for a while and get your head around this. Are these roads even capable of sustaining the weight that those trucks are going to have on them with loads of timber? Are these roads now going to collapse and the town is going to confront a huge bill to repave all the roads simply because we've accommodated them to use an alternate plan? Now, I'm proposing that, and I hope the council will take this in good faith, not as a criticism, because you're confronting something that's not been looked at before. And this is not a criticism, it's purely an attempt to validate the difficulties which you are confronting. And the people here, sitting in this audience, are placing their faith in you, and their livelihood, and their homes. And this is an important financial outlet for them. And this is what they want to be, happy and content in a town and feel you're looking out for them. So I offer that in all good faith and hope that the council will pursue that as a mandate some point this evening and say we will formulate a committee, we will bring in expertise, and we will get towns that have been through this, sit with their planners, and find out what went wrong to assist us moving forward.
I just want to say something. I understand there's a lot of frustration. We've been through this. I started in June of 2018 with a project across from my house. And we've been at it ever since. That's when I first met Jim. And I got to tell you, I know you're frustrated. You can go in anytime you want, as he said, in a large number of people to make an appointment. When he tells you he's going to do something, he's going to do it. I've seen it firsthand. He's in a bad position. I feel bad for Jim right now. Those decisions were made by some members of the council that were here previously, some members that are on the council now. Jim has to take it from there. He's a town employee. It's disappointing to see Jim being on the coals over here when he's trying to do his job and reassure everyone, but it's not just Jim's. I'm not even going to say fault. It's not Jim's. He's trying to correct a bad situation. I've seen him do it before, and believe me, I had a situation. He called Crossman Engineering. Crossman Engineering went up, gave an independent study, and that problem with the retention pond was corrected. You will do it. I've been up to your site twice. I asked my wife, I showed her the pictures. I said to my wife, in one word, how would you describe this situation? She said decimated. And I agree with her. myself included, we were not involved when this project started. That's my fault. That's other residents' faults that didn't show up for this particular project.
People know about it.
But there is an issue about knowing about it, and believe me, I've said it more than once with this 200-foot abutter. There were, on my street, there's 14 houses. It stopped at my next door neighbor because I was not a 200-foot abutter, and I found out from a neighbor. And it's a good thing I did find out from
You
my
gotta
neighbor.
stop blaming Max and Hilton, because we didn't get, I'm a butter.
I'm not
I'm a butter,
blaming
I didn't get
anyone.
notified at all. They made this, they changed that zone, I never was notified. I'm
That-
the butter, I didn't find out until I went to the planning board. That's when I found out about
But
it.
then you should,
They approved it all before, I was never notified, and I should have.
that's something you
And the
should
rest
bring
of
to
us
the
should have been
council.
notified, they never notified.
That's something you should bring to the
They
council.
should, how do they approve it without notifying us?
Believe me, I've been there, I've done it, I'm still
All right,
doing
let's-
it, and I agree with you.
Joe, just to listen.
But anyway, please give him a fair shake. He will do the best that he can to correct that problem.
Jim,
Yes,
I
Lawrence.
got a question for you.
Lauren, go ahead.
I don't think, I mean, I'm sitting here seething in my chair, and I'm trying to wrap my brain around that we are here again, and we're still discussing this. I remember being over at the school the Friday before Thanksgiving last year, going over the new ordinance. This is taking on a life of its own, and I have no faith in the process right now. Last time, the last meeting when we were at the school, we're sitting there listening to a proposal that the conditions and new plots of land are in the new proposal, and we're sitting there listening to it. I asked Frank, I have not heard from you, Frank, I hope I hear from you soon, how did that happen? Where did the ball drop in our town to let that happen? We went fast and furious with the solar. And I've heard a lot of things that are very hurtful and sad about the community. Oh, the community just doesn't want solar. You just mention solar and they don't want it. When you are sitting up there making decisions, anybody who makes a decision anywhere, you have to understand that there could be huge ramifications. And nobody, in my opinion, unless you can tell me differently, is an expert that knows about runoff. That you, Jim, just said somebody's working with you in a cooperative way. I don't feel clearing up to 10 feet to this man's house is working cooperatively with the town. Nobody in these solar developers cares about this town. They care about the money. They are desperate. There are a lot of people who have allowed this to happen. And those people have to go to bed at night, and those people have to close their eyes and think what you have done. There are huge ramifications. I was on the phone yesterday with a representative that works up at the steakhouse for 1 hour and a half. And I didn't even begin to scratch the surface of my concerns. An hour and a half. Frank, I would love to come to your office and sit for an hour and a half and repeat everything I discussed with him. I am angry at the state. I'm angry at Gina Raimondo. They opened up this state with no guidelines. Nobody in this room can tell me that they have a degree in solar. But that was okay. We're still going to do it. And Jim, with all due respect, once that is done and that surface soil is gone, you cannot replace vegetation. There is no such thing as replacing something after it's gone. To that magnitude, you cannot. And now you're going to hear, you read the paper down in Westerly and here and there, everywhere's having problems with bobcat sightings and this and that and the other. This is a very delicate ecosystem and we are all ruining it. And I come to these meetings and nobody wants to hear me talk and writing and all of that. I am out of my skull that this is happening in my backyard, in my house, People are losing home values and everything else, and we sit here and talk about, well, this house sold for that. That is just minutia. I don't care what a house sold for. The big picture is that this is a big, big mess. And I don't understand why anything is going on at Maxon Hill right now with everything that's going on with Maxon Hill. And we haven't even determined if that was legally approved. I have asked the solicitor, I have asked you, I've asked everybody. When are we going to get a definitive answer on a supermajority vote? That was not approved with a supermajority vote, and they're up there decimating the land. And we're supposed to sit here and say that's okay? It's not okay. You cannot fix something after it's decimated like that. This is like atomic bombs going off. I am out of my skull, and I keep coming here to try to make a difference, and nothing changes.
One second. If you call me, Lauren, or email me, I can get an answer on it, because I did check with the solicitor on the question regarding the last hearing for 0 Main Street, so I do have an answer for that.
Frank, I'm losing faith in the
No,
process.
but again, you asked me.
I've emailed everybody, nobody gets back to me. I would really appreciate hearing from you.
I got an answer, so.
Okay.
And then we also did, I think in several solar hearings, I believe we addressed the supermajority issue.
I have never heard a definitive answer.
I can get you that, Joe. I'll get you.
Wasn't that part of the first?
It was.
I think we should all have that. Dismissed.
Well, I'll get you both answers.
Well, this is an open forum, we can talk back and forth, so why not tell everybody?
I'd like the answer.
It's- You don't need a supermajority, that's the bottom line. That's number one. Number two, you don't. State law, you don't need it. A simple majority for town charter is what you need, not a super. That's completely false.
There is a difference of opinion on that.
No, I know, I agree, Eric. It's in court.
It is an element of 2 lawsuits against the town, and it has not been resolved.
From my perspective.
That's the town's opinion.
Right, that's my.
But, so, we still don't have a definitive answer on that, and we're approving projects without knowing if it is or it isn't. I mean, I read the comprehensive plan, and it does say in there that it needs a supermajority.
Anyway.
It's in the ordinance, yes, sorry.
Okay, yes, sir, he's been
The other question, I came late, so this might have been covered, but is there going to be some sort of investigation or inquiry into why they proceeded to clear the land while they're actively in a lawsuit? We really need to know that. Were they trying to qualify for some kind of state financial reason through the solar, or what was going on there? What was his thinking? I think if we can uncover that, we can understand the intent of the developer better in order to deal with the guy. Because that's a huge thing. I mean, I work overseas and I came back and I got an email saying, oh, they're clearing the land. And it was a great way to come home.
I heard it's expiring in January.
They have a state permit to clear the land, number one.
Oh, I understand that.
So they can go forth at their own risk. They know a lawsuit is in the offing. That's up to them to make that calculation, whether they want to go forth or wait for the suit to get settled. It's
No,
up
that's
to them.
about the understanding that I had at this moment, but I thought there might have been other things uncovered.
Wouldn't it be like a cease and desist from a judge that's required to get that?
If a judge hasn't issued that, has he?
I don't think anybody's asked, but.
To be frank, they're not running a forest product company here. They're running a solar company, so I own land that I could go and harvest the wood, but I'm not running a solar in conjunction with that. So if they're trying to, I mean, it seems like they're trying to pull off something.
Well, if anybody owns a piece of property, right, they can take every single tree and piece of vegetation off it that they want to, even into the side yard setback areas, the front yard setback area, right to their property line. If you own property, you pay taxes on it, it's yours. You want to take a tree down? Take a tree down. That's.
I understand what you're saying.
All right, come on, folks. One at a time so we can all get this in here.
I'll just follow this up real quick. I understand what you're saying, and I agree, because, pro-forestry and everything. But if you're going to be applying for another permit to do something, that's a whole different situation, especially if it's covered time and time again throughout Connecticut.
Well, I would agree. If I was a developer and I was coming to a town and I needed approval to do my development, I don't think I'd take such an action to start off with. That doesn't give anybody a sense of, cooperativeness. So no, I would hold off until I got the permit. But as you can see, what's happened in many towns in the state of Rhode Island, when they were refused permits by a town, you just heard testimony tonight, what they do. Oh, I'm not gonna get a permit? Well, I'll show you. A few years ago in North Kingstown, remember?
The guy, the plum tree.
With the pink trees?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. How you gonna stop that? That's why I say, when the approach that I like to take with people is when I see cooperativeness on that side, myself personally, I'd be willing to give a little bit to get the prize that we're looking for. But tomorrow, I will contact the developer and I will ask them to eliminate the truck traffic on Maxon Hill Road. I'd like to hear from the person who says that they were cleared to the 10-foot to the property line. I'd like to hear more from the person who was talking about stripping the topsoil off and see where that came from. And I will, next time I go to the site, I will confront the developer with these things. I'll find out exactly where it happened, to what degree it happened, and see what I can do about it. So let me know. I'm glad you folks came out tonight. Hope to hear more from you tonight. But I mean, feel free to contact me in the office. Bring your problems to me, and I'll look into them. I promise you.
I just have a quick question. I don't trust developers. I don't trust green energy. So I'm keeping a close eye on them. I live like almost across the street. What time are they supposed to start their machines and running their machines in the morning?
8 to 5.
Really?
Well, they're running them at 7:30 in the morning.
7:30.
7 to 11.
It was still going when I came up here at 6:30.
I was told it follows the noise ordinance, which I believe is 7 a.m. to 11 p.m.
We put a further restriction, 8 to 5.
I just gave it to you, it's sitting on the desk if you want to.
8 to 5, right?
Yeah, I think it's 8 to 5.
You might want to take that on the stove. 7:30 is when these machines start.
Well,
I've heard that.
talk about that too.
I've heard that, and we had a discussion out in the field Friday with the developer. And again, I just want to give you folks the atmosphere that we're dealing with out there. It was a very cooperative atmosphere. He's seeking to modify the farm road. And so he asked us if the town would consider extending the hours of operation, okay, particularly with the daylight savings time now, because it starts to get dark earlier, if he could start in conformance with a noise ordinance. Now, we have a noise ordinance in this town that goes from 7 to 5, I believe, okay? So he's asking if he could start a little bit earlier, okay, in an effort to get the project done, instead of dragging it out. Do you want to see a project dragged out for a year when it could be done in 6 months? That's an exaggeration. But no, I mean, so you're not in favor of that. You would rather see.
He's going to continue to do it regardless.
Yeah.
Continue it.
It's 7 o'clock in the morning, 6:30 in the morning. 6:30 in the morning, Saturday morning, I woke up to them banging their machines at 6:30 in the morning. Were you recently
Saturday
confronted
morning,
with the same
6:30.
issue with another project? The Palmer Circle thing?
I heard, well, let me just answer you now. I heard from the developer that on one occasion, this is what they told me, a mechanic who was working on one of the machines, who starts early, I guess he got on the site about 7 o'clock and he actually started fixing the broken machine about 7:30, so.
They were literally banging something into the ground. It sounded like they were taking stumps and nailing them into the ground, or eggs or
It's not
something.
pictures off my wall.
At 6:30 Saturday morning.
They can't work on weekends, and they can't work
They do.
8, it's gotta be
They do.
8 to 5, and no weekends, and Jim will make them adhere to it.
They're not.
Well, they have to. And if you've got a complaint, you let Jim know.
I will.
Thank you.
I'll call them 6:30 when they start.
Yep, let me know immediately.
Can the police be called? Can we call the police to come stop?
Yeah.
Well,
On weekends?
okay, depending upon the nature of your complaint, okay, to me, okay? I'll talk with the building and zoning official, who has a little bit more power and authority to put cease and desist orders in place than I do. And so I'll confer with Sherry over there, and we'll take the appropriate action, because you're 100% right. The condition, now this was a condition of approval set by the council. Hours of work, 8 to 5, period, end of story, have a nice day, that's it. Now, they can ask for relief from that if they want to, whether they get it from the council, that's up to the council to make that decision. But right now, as far as I'm concerned, it's 8 to 5, and I will,
Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday. They
So
also
on
asked,
Saturday morning, who you call? You're not in the office.
yeah, they, you know, the other thing they did is they asked if they could have some Saturday operations.
No.
So why are we giving them this?
Why are we giving it to them? No.
Why?
It's trash and everything.
Why are all these concessions being made?
They haven't been made yet, but.
Well, you already told us, you give them a concession to use an entrance that they weren't supposed to because they're cooperating with you. You're allowing them to come in early because they're cooperating with you.
No,
They're going to cooperate with you as long as you're doing what they want you to do.
No, I haven't allowed them to start early. I don't know, I'm not the project superintendent here on this job. Okay?
I live 2 houses from it, I
Okay,
can tell you.
if I was, I would direct the operations out there. okay?
Furthermore, they're not going by any of the rules that you seem to think you have in place. I stood on the property line beyond my house and watched they had a backhoe clearing stumps along the property line. I watched the machinery that cuts trees walk all the way from the front of the property halfway to the back of the property. He saw me there. He cut 2 little twigs this big and drove all the way back. Now I know for a fact that he had trees that he was going to be taking down in front of that excavator that he could pull the stump out and have absolutely no proof that he removed them. I have pictures of those trees, and I go back every day or so and check to make sure those trees are there. I guarantee you those trees are going to be gone at one point. They're not going by the rules that you seem to think they're going by. And they're a long ways from being the 25 or 30 feet or whatever that setback's supposed to be.
Yes, sir, the sir in the back.
I have a question. I live on Edgewood Ave, and there's talk of another solar field going in off of Randall Lane. I was not notified. The only way I found out was my wife saw 2 surveyors in the back on my property, who she yelled at because she thought they were trespassing, and they were. And when she confronted them and asked what they were doing, they told us, oh, we're putting solar fields in the survey. I was never made aware. My neighbors were made aware.
Yeah.
I'm running right to the property line.
That particular project has not gotten the relief that it needs from the town council in terms of zoning changes and comprehensive plan changes. It's a proposal that was submitted to the town. It has not been acted on yet.
Well, then I'm going to suggest right now, ahead of time, that there is a vital swamp back there, as well as a stream that runs through. Most of the properties.
Which road did you say you were on?
I'm on Edgewood Ave. I have bought 10
10 Crandall?
10 Crandall that's proposed.
This proposal is between Crandall, Amelia Street, and Edgewood Avenue.
Exactly.
We're all in the high school, yeah.
What you're trying to do, or what they're trying to do, is get it to be zone changed so that they can put in commercial solar. Okay? There is a swamp back there that extends hundreds of yards. There's a stream that runs through there that goes out to Oak Street into numerous mountain ponds, goes down into Crandall Field. There's vital habitat back there that's going to be lost from all the nightmares I'm hearing from everything else that's happened to everybody. They're going to go back there, they're going to cut it, they're going to decimate it. All the runoff is going to run into the stream, which is going to put silt into it and destroy it. We're going to lose the wetlands. And on top of that, the aquifer system is exposed there because there's groundwater that runs exposed that now is going to have runoff going into it that's going to go into my well that my children drink. And I drink and my family drinks. So, to avoid another nightmare and me having to keep coming back here and screaming and yelling and going on, I am asking that the council heeds all the warnings from everybody else and acts upon this and not allow this to happen before the January cutoff that you said is going to happen. Because it's just another loss to this town.
I call for a moratorium. I really do. I think that's what's called for.
We need to stop this.
Zone changes.
We as the town, the people of the town, took a census a few years back online. That census said, undoubtedly, that none of us want this. We didn't want big box stores. We didn't want urban sprawl throughout. We want to keep our community rural. We want to keep it preserved. We stopped the truck stop from going in. That was going to pollute our aquifer system and everything else. And now we basically put that to the wayside, but we've allowed all the solar to come in and destroy our town. I'm begging you, as a town council, we need to stop this. For all of us.
I wasn't gonna,
Michelle,
go ahead. I wasn't gonna speak at all because I have been speaking for over a year as well. And it is so dismaying to me that, another crowd has come in that's getting up to speed again. I would like the town council to state that they will not approve another residential zone change to commercial. You don't understand. You have an unintended consequence happening in this Maxon Hill neighborhood. By changing this residential area to commercial, you're now going to be faced with a commercial lot asking for solar right next to it, with Boneyard Barbecue all up the way from that road. How disgusting what you have done.
I just want to say I just moved here 10 months ago. I cannot believe the crap that's going on. I came from the city of Warwick to find a better life. To come to this community, this herbal setting, clean air, trees, whatnot, wildlife. It sickens me. I went to that Maxon Hill. I don't even know the area anymore. I went there and saw what it looked like now with all those trees gone. I pulled over and cried. I cannot believe it, and it's not next door to me. Well, how I feel for the rest of the people that have to live near there. I don't care if you offered me a house for $1 million next to a solar field, I would not take it. I don't care. All those trees gone affects the air we breathe, our water, the wildlife. I just can't fathom what has happened. I just can't. It makes me sick to see it all happening. It really does. I do. 10 months I've been here. I never went to a meeting before in the city of Warwick where I live. I came to get away from traffic and noise and no trees. This is why I came here. And believe me, I had a 7-minute drive to go to work. Now I have a 45-minute drive. It's like, it was a big life change, but we wanted to come here for a reason. We came here, we looked at our property, I don't know how many times. We said, this is where we want to be. Every day I take 1 million pictures of my street, the trees. I send it to my friends. I love it here. This I don't love. It's just, I don't know. I'm sorry.
I wanted to follow up on the question that gentleman asked, because I think that's a fundamental question. The fact that Maxon Hill is even being obliterated as it is, when there's I guess there's a court case associated with that. And in the same vein, Skunk Hill is in a similar situation. Do we expect the same kind of behavior on the Skunk Hill project? Because it's been approved, but it sits in court. Will the developer be allowed to start to strip the trees and bulldoze the land without through approval?
Yeah, it's been approved, Dave, so that's.
Yeah, but there's still some litigation going on.
If you paid attention to what Jim said, they're doing it at their own risk. So it's in litigation, right? But they're doing it at their own risk, spending all this money, and if something happens in court, well, it's going to be a
Okay, so there's really nothing we can do about it. That sounds right.
I want to, one person that has that sort of, yes, sir.
We moved into Maxon Hill Road 2.5 years ago. That's why my dream home. I mean, every day was beautiful up until pretty much a week, 10 days ago. Started hearing all this, and like this, they're talking about the trucks. I mean, how do you get an access road approved that's not approved? I mean, when I was coming home from the grocery store today, coming up Diamond Hill, a truck totally speeding down the road. I had to veer off to the right side so he didn't run me over. I mean, it's just crazy. How does this happen?
That access point from, well, the Maxon Hill, access
Well, I
point.
mean, he's going down Diamond Hill now. I mean, and there's no, I had to veer off to the road. He was at least going 45 or 50.
Big trucks.
Jim will ask about the stopping of the trucks on Maxon Hill
And Diamond
and
And
Diamond Hill.
all of them.
Until they get the approval from DM, which should hopefully be Wednesday, on the farm road, to be sure.
Could I ask Jim to do something? Jim, could you talk to us about some of the requirements? For instance, you mentioned that before they can clear, they had to get a permit. There's a number of steps they have to go through with the state of Rhode Island before they can do a thing. There's obviously, people know about the wetlands, but there's a whole lot more documentation that they have to do. For instance, well, I won't even bother to get into it. If you want to note some of those.
Well, any time that they stump, cutting a tree at the ground level is one thing, stumping it is another. When you start to stump trees, now you're disturbing the ground. That's a RIPD's permit that the state issued. They have a RIPD's permit for the areas of the project that they intend to stump.
Hey guys, back
They've
there.
got a RIPD's permit for that. They also have a forestry permit to cut trees. So they covered them, to me, it seems as though they covered themselves both ways here. So, again, I'm going to contact Crossman Engineering. I think it's time that they probably get involved in this and, take some preemptive action here early on, and let's get going with them. And I'll have a conversation with, again, I have a good conversation with the developer going right now. I'm going to make it clear to them that it's up to them to pay for the engineering review. We'll get them in there, and as we did on Alton Bradford Road, as soon as they started clearing Alton Bradford Road, we had Crossman go in there, because we had the same concerns then from the public that excessive clearing was going on. So we had Crossman go out, they looked at the site, we found that they are within the parameters of clearing that they set in the plan, so that project has been going fairly well, I would say. I haven't had any complaints, but now this one here bears some watching, and I will make the appropriate calls tomorrow. I'm really, I'll tell you what, I'm really delighted to get this feedback tonight because it gives me some more direction as to exactly how the town wants to play this, and I'll play the cards and the game the way you want to play it.
I got, well, this young lady's had her hand up.
Betsy Alvarez, I live right down the street, and I know Monday you had a meeting. I'm on the butter that's directly impacted on that property that got added. It's literally behind my house, and I know that you tabled that discussion. I actually watched it online, everything. But after hearing everything that this other project is in the works, it really bothers me. I grew up here, I grew up in Charlestown, moved to Hopkinton, work right in district here at high school, and I'm really concerned because everything I'm hearing from you guys in your project, I own over 2 acres, but with this, hopefully this new project doesn't go through. I know you're talking about that January 22nd date. I don't know if this new, whatever you're going to decide is going to be impacted.
It's last January 22nd.
Last January? Okay. So I don't know, hopefully this project doesn't get approved, but if it does, everything that you guys are talking about is going to be impacted, not just on my back, but on my side. That was added by, I guess, my neighbor. I don't really know a lot of people because I work a lot, but the reality is, all we see is solar. When I have my 5-year-old telling me, because they're asking me, Mommy, why are you going to a meeting? You've been gone all day, okay? And they're asking me why, and I'm telling them they're seeing all the trees. I mean, if a 5-year-old can see what's going on, is a problem. So my concern, and I'm asking this question, maybe you guys know this, maybe you don't, but how do I, as a taxpayer, as a landowner, make sure that my full property is surveyed? Because I didn't even know, I didn't get a letter. I did email over the weekend. Someone did respond to my email, which I appreciate. I didn't get a letter to go to that meeting last week. And I didn't know anything about that. Well, I didn't get anything in the mail, and I check the mail every day.
No.
Yeah, well, nothing, I got nothing in the mail. There was nothing.
But they came back as undelivered.
Can you check your address?
I already checked.
I've gotten, I know I've gotten,
This last week, I checked it.
but no one called me. So that's a problem right there, communication, that I came here and I'm finding this out. but nothing came to my mailbox, which is concerning.
Do
If
you
it
know
comes
how
back,
to reach her now? Can you share a telephone number, because you may get notified again, and you want to be able to receive it.
yeah, so I can.
You'll get, everybody.
I gave it there as well, but my concern is if you got it back, if I'm a direct abutter by a new project, because it's a new add-on, that's a problem. That's a huge problem. So I,
Certified mail goes out to the post office, they send you a postcard.
and I didn't get anything in the mail, that's what I'm trying to tell you.
And
So that
is
might
it
have been
buffer?
failing in the post office.
But that's a problem, that's a problem.
Can I take the phone numbers out?
I'll give it to you again. And I have it in all your emails that I sent over the weekend as well, my contact. Okay. Well, to the town council.
There's a 200-foot perimeter around the project. Those are the people that are required to get notified.
This is behind you.
And I'll tell you what, there's nobody threatening to put any projects up around my house. And I'm interested in what's going on, not just with the solar.
Well, if they cut down.
Excuse me, all I'm saying is, every time Monday rolls around, I'm going to the town calendar and I'm looking at the agendas to see what's going on this week. And it's the easiest way for me to be informed.
Okay, the reality is this project here, if you cut down the trees on this Main Street one, we see 95. So that means we're gonna hear 95, we're gonna, I mean, it's not just the vegetation, it's 95 traffic. It's, so, and I understand what you're saying. I understand that.
Yes, Tim.
Folks, in an attempt to help you in your office, and I'm not sure if this would be more appropriate for the council or for the planning board, but I would ask that the council consider imposing an additional type of impact fee on any projects moving forward before they're completed. But some could be approved because they may be in a manufacturing or commercial zone. So, and I'm not sure everybody understands the zone change process here, but anyway, impose an additional impact fee that would pay for an independent advisor for your office, as, call it, and we've done this in school systems. We will bring in an expert as a coach with certain issues or cases to help administrators work through a particular issue for several months or a school year, whatever it takes. So that's what that would be. So that would just be negative and bash everybody. A possible solution to help moving forward with those projects that we know very well could be approved and by right because of the manufacturing zone. An additional set of impact fees to support your office with some additional personnel.
By the way, I want you to know that there's something that the state of Rhode Island provided to the state, to the town. It came with the Main Street project and the Route 91 project that went before the council. And in there, and in the decision, the developer offered that, for instance, every time we need to use our engineer, they pay for it. Every time we have to call somebody out, whether it's staff, they are willing to pay for that. If we need an expert in any way, we can do that, and they reimburse us. So we have that. I just want you to know we do have that.
I mean, that's wonderful, but I'm thinking beyond the engineer. I'm thinking somebody to advise from step one through decommissioning. I posed the question a month or so ago. None of these solar companies, it sounds like, and one answered, no, we never have ever gone through a decommission because it's all too new. So we don't know if the funds that are in escrow are nearly enough or not. We don't know what that process is really going to look like 20 or 30 years down the road. So that's why I'm saying some independent advisors who don't have a dog in the fight other than them getting paid from us via these impact fees going forward. So it would kind of be in addition to what I think I hear you're saying, Sylvia.
Yeah, good point. Yes, so I know you haven't spoken to
Yes, I just want to know who voted for these projects. Because, I think it's
They all vary. The whole council is very 4132. I didn't vote for Maxon Hill and David Hutchins did not. So I voted for others. I did not vote for exit 1 or exit 2, so, but other people didn't vote for one, did vote for another. It's not a 5-0. It just isn't. It's 4-1, 3-2. So we're listening to all of you across the board. There are reasons I didn't vote for 1 and 2. There are reasons I did vote for Skunk Hill. So there are differences of opinion. There are 5 of us. We are all different.
Well, Madison Hill Road looks like hell. and so does
I
Main
voted
Street.
against it. I thought it would be a horrible project, okay?
Voted for
But
it.
I can't, I'm still listening because these are still good ideas going forward. Because you don't win all the time.
Is there anyone
Just
that-
don't.
Is there anyone that hasn't spoken yet? I want to give, yes, sir.
Yeah, I've got a lot of concern with the entire project itself, which should just be shut down and stopped. You're on top of the aquifer. Does anybody realize what's going to happen when all this starts to leak? It's going to leak. It's just inevitable. It's going to happen. It's going to leak. Okay, it's going to go into the tributaries, all the brooks, all the streams, right into the Pocketuck River, into the Wood River, all behind this gentleman's house, everywhere. It's just, it's a disgrace to our entire community, to everybody sitting in here who is outraged. Okay? I damn near lost my job because I'm so outraged. My boss took me aside, he grabbed me and said, "What the hell is going on with you?" And he almost fired me. I swear to God, I almost need therapy right now for this. I am out of my wife works second shift. She hasn't slept since they started this project. They're knocking pictures off my wall. She's videotaping them within 10 feet. The excavator drivers, he's got his head down because he doesn't want to be on camera. He's oh my God, he's got to get that stump out of here before anybody sees it. Okay? I got straggling trees along my entire freaking property. I'm looking at North Stonington. I'm looking at the entire forest stacked next to my freaking house. I'm pissed. Okay? This has got to stop. This is insane. It's nuts. Who's gonna fix this when all this starts to leak and leach in? Okay? You decimated a forest. I saw the deer Saturday morning. I'm sipping my coffee, looking out the kitchen window. Every deer, 5 of them, walking like this. And disarray. Deer usually got their nose in the ground and they're sniffing, they're looking for food. Where's the food here? Every one of them. Then they walk down the freaking street right in front of my house. The same thing, just like, where am I? What the hell happened? It's insane.
Just to go back, there were 2 gentlemen, the one who asked about Skunk Hill, what's to stop them from starting before anything has been approved, or why are we letting, I understand that you want to work, you know, you give, I give, that whole cooperation, you don't want it to be a hostile whatever, but why are they bullying us? Why are we allowing them to do this? Why, they do it at their own risk. They can start cutting, but they're going to do so. They do so because they know we're not going to stop them. We're not going to pursue anything. Why are we allowing that? Why are we letting them bully us?
Clean Water Act. Remember that?
Sir.
Remember any of that?
Sir.
Okay?
1 second. We're going to get an answer for this young lady's question to Jim, I guess.
Well, first of all, they're not bullying us or me or anybody else. As I said earlier, they're going to abide by these approved plans, or else they're going to have major problems. Now, as far, I'll tell you, I feel for you folks for the loss of the forest. Developing land entails clearing. They're clearing the land. I mean, they have an approved project to do so. It's too late to stop the project now.
No, it isn't.
It should have been.
No, it isn't. It's in the process. That's just it. There's a
Well,
process.
unless you're successful in court, I suppose you can stop the project. Go.
It hasn't been approved totally yet, just because it's in litigation. I understand you do it at risk, but it just seems to me you need to finish the process before you can start.
If that was the case, you could stop any development by somebody throwing a frivolous lawsuit at it and say, okay, I don't like that development.
Until it's adjudicated.
You're not gonna.
It's a lot of
You
money.
know how long it takes to adjudicate some cases?
I know.
Years.
I know.
Years.
Look at the president.
Yes, young lady.
I just have a question that's probably answered months, a year ago, as you told me. Several people have said is when we should have been here, but why? Like, what are we seeing as a benefit to this in the town? Is it going to lower our taxes? Is it creating jobs? Is it something nice to look at? Is it creating any convenience? Like, I'm sure a lot of people know this answer, but I don't, and a lot of people have asked, and I don't know what to tell them. So why? Or why are we doing this? Who's benefiting from it?
There was a project in town that over the life of it would have given us $17 million over 30 years. It got turned down. That's the kind of money we're talking about. That was the big, huge project. So some of these other projects, they're going to bring in less money, but it's going to be, it might be $250,000 a year. It might be 136 for another. But that, it's a revenue source.
So it's not like lowering our taxes or helping to do
It'll keep us level. Well, as a matter of fact, Frank knows how many times we have kept the taxes at zero or actually decreased the taxes in the last 10 years.
So the money is the only benefit of this?
Absolutely, just like bringing in commercial development or manufacturing.
Offsetting the.
And what do people get? What do we get? Yeah.
It's great. Yes.
A long time ago.
Hold on, folks.
So in the meantime, the decisions you've made regarding these solar projects have made our town ugly. I drive to Providence every single day. I drive up Route 3 north and get on 95 north, and I pass about 6 large parcels of solar properties before Route 3. After that, it's beautiful again, exit route. So now I can't wait to get out of town because it's ugly. You've made the town ugly.
Yes. Actually, Ed, if you don't mind, sir, Ed hasn't spoken.
One of the future problems that hasn't even been addressed in all of these installations is the solar industry is proceeding to rapidly build highly exotic batteries to store some of this energy so that it can be distributed to the network over in the evening. And once these projects come into our town, there's nothing to prevent them from incorporating power storage elements, including these huge battery banks. And the materials that they're using, at least the materials that have been investigated from the European market, that they're proposing to bring over here are things like lithium. They're rare earth batteries. A lot of these materials are very, very toxic. And when you're dealing with electricity and batteries, you have a lot of problem justifying expending funds for your fire department to put out these exotic fires that you can't use traditional means to smother. You must use chemical blanket means. That cost to our town is going to dwarf the tax revenue that's generated by this. It just is a no-win situation, and it's looming out there. No one's talking about it, especially the developers. They don't want to talk about it.
Just a couple more folks, we still have other business we have to deal with on the agenda.
Yeah, I know you were going to have another open forum. I don't know if you're still going to do that because this is an extensive one. So I just want to say, listening to some of these comments, and I want to comment to the town council because some of us have been doing this like for well over a year, certainly you. But the original sin here has been that you invaded people's neighborhoods. We have a comprehensive plan. We had zones that were devoted to residential. We had goals and land use goals and so forth and so on. And people who lived on Alton Bradford Road or Woodville Alton Road or Woodville Road or near Brushy Brook or Skunk Hill has 63 abutters surrounding it. You approved that. There's not a commercial piece of property within a couple of miles, okay? So the original sin in this whole process is that you were reckless and you disregarded our town's plan. thing that was most precious to all these people, and you betrayed their trust because you put a plan out there and then you ignored it, okay? And so all these people on Maxon Hill, it might be that we have an ordinance that has a 25-foot side setback, but that ordinance was designed because I might want to put a shed, a garden shed, within 25 feet of my property line, not 60 acres of solar panels. So that's absurd, okay? And that was careless, and it was reckless, and it was naive on your part, and you blew it, and these people are paying the price, okay? And so I just don't think that you can sit there and rationalize it. Now, I feel like a schizophrenic up here for the past 15 months because I try to work cooperatively with you, and I'm also an adversary. So for example, you know, at my own, well, you know, we've given a tremendous amount of effort. I compiled an awful lot of research for this town council and the planning board on decommissioning expense and on the true environmental hazards of these installations. And as Tim said, he asked Clearway Energy on September 23rd at a public hearing, after they said that they were the third largest renewable energy developer in the country, have you ever decommissioned anything? And they said, come to think of it, no. Okay. And in Falmouth, I've sent you this material for the wind turbines. Every project all over the country, every wind turbine developer said the cost, the value of the scrap metal will pay for the decommissioning of the installations. Well, in fact, in the town of Falmouth, the court ordered them to take down 2 wind turbines, and it's $1 million a piece to take them down. Okay, so the decommissioning cost is not zero. Now, we have decommissioning reserves that are set on Alton Bradford at, I think, $274,000, and this one on Maxon Hill is $264,000. And I gave you a binder of material on the environmental hazards of these projects, and I personally contacted 5 solar recyclers and got estimates. And what I found, and I gave them all to you, and one of them, you know, they replied basically that the shipping costs, so you have to pay to recycle solar panels because you can't really put them in landfills anymore because people are wise to that. Because when you put them in the ground, they degrade and all those toxic materials come out. Same thing if you have like a tornado or hurricane, they break, then they start to put the toxic material in the ground. So you've got to take them out and you've got to recycle them. The recycling cost per panel is $20, and the shipping cost is $6 to $8, okay? So Alton Bradford, to take the example I have given to you before, they have 50,000 panels. At $6 a panel, it's 300,000. So the decommissioning reserve of $275 won't cover the shipping, okay? And what's going to happen potentially there is a gigantic environmental and financial disaster for the town if that LLC walks away in 25 years when it doesn't want those in. So these people in this room don't even know until I just told them just now that they could be living next to a potential Superfund site 25 years from now, okay? Now that's, you can call it an honest mistake on your part, but that's what happens.
Could you be fair, Eric? You did not give us that material years ago.
I gave it to you.
It's just a recent event.
Let me finish the thought. So I gave it to you about a month ago, and I appeared, a little more than that, and I appeared before the planning board, and we raised the issue, and the planning board decided that we should have some workshops or something. But in the meantime, you're going to have to figure out, Skunk Hill is going to come in here, and you're going to have to put a number on a decommissioning reserve, and the right number is probably $5 million, not $250,000, okay, or something like that. And no one has said anything about a workshop. Nobody has done any research. Nobody has contacted anybody about decommissioning, and you're not treating it like a real problem, okay?
You don't know that we're not doing anything. That's just not fair.
Well, no workshops have been planned.
It doesn't mean that nothing's being done.
Okay, well, the planning board doesn't know about it then, because I'm
Listen, Eric, can we just keep it you know, try and keep it somewhat positive. I mean, we're trying to get. All I'm saying is we've got some constructive criticisms tonight that we're going to try and build on. We understand your concerns, and we've got to get to the rest of the agenda, so you've got to hurry up.
So let me just
I've got two other points I've got to get to.
I just want to correct one thing about the, some approved, some not, so forth. Only one proposal was a 4-1 vote. All the others were 3-2, okay? And almost every single proposal to rezone residential property to commercial, every single one except for Alton Bradford Road was disapproved. And on Carapeza, on Woodville Road, it was 2-2, and that's a failed motion to approve, to render a positive advisory opinion. So let's just be honest about it.
But those votes were from the planning board.
I'm saying that every single one of these proposals to invade neighborhoods by doing a comp plan change to allow manufacturing activity up to people's 25 feet of their homes received a negative advisory opinion from the planning board, and you disregarded it. And then I also want to say that in terms of, there are two lawsuits that are currently extant against this town council, and you can treat those alleged violations of law, and there are many, many, many profoundly fundamental violations of law alleged in those lawsuits, okay? And you can treat them as if they're nuisance lawsuits if you want to. But I want to say one other thing about it, and that is in the Skunk Hill lawsuit, there are 97 of your constituents who have joined as plaintiffs against you, right? And those constituents are from all, and by the way, that's going to increase. They are from all over town. I'm the lead plaintiff in my adversarial role on that lawsuit, and I live miles away. So the reason I'm mentioning that is because you don't have to have an abutter to have a stake in the comp plan and a legal claim. So I think that is indicative, that is indicative of the sentiment of your constituents. It's not every day, in fact, I don't think I've ever heard of it, where 100 constituents in a town sue their town council from every neighborhood in town. And we're still open for business if anybody wants to.
I didn't use my 5 minutes, I just let them complete my 5 minutes. I'm entitled.
She has not spoken yet.
Let her complete his 5 minutes.
Sharon, I'm running the meeting. Please, let her speak, please. She has not spoken yet. Barbara, I'll handle it.
I'm Maxine Hillebutter.
We're going to handle you.
I'm so excited my house is suddenly worth $500,000. That's the best news I've heard in forever. And let me tell you about my stunning new sunset views. They come with the incessant hum from the highway. Saturday morning, I woke up not knowing what the hell that noise was. Is it my refrigerator? Is it the water softener? I rolled out of bed. I realized it was the highway that I can suddenly hear. You think you're not going to hear the highway like a... I'm a mile and a half as far as the crow flies. It's humming. I downloaded an app to measure the decibel levels. It went up to like 54, 53. 6 o'clock in the morning. There's no other cars around. There's no birds. Oh, I take it back. A rooster crowed 3 or 4 times. It didn't even touch the upper level of the noise the highway was making. I asked, oh, where are the Maxim Hill people? I've been to I don't know how many of these meetings. I've been to the town planning meetings where I was assured by a member of the town council when I asked, how are we going to make sure that the town's on top of this stuff? How are we going to make sure what happened at Palmer Circle doesn't happen at Maxim Hill? Oh, the town will take care of it. We're looking out for you. You didn't. You should be ashamed of yourselves. This is awful. God, I'm frustrated.
Just finish your thoughts and then we got to continue on with the agenda.
Edward Lowe from Hope Valley. I submitted a letter at the last town council meeting And in it, I made 2 requests. I asked, one, that the town council consider issuing a letter of censure to the chairman of the Conservation Commission based on his written description of fellow citizens participating in town government. The second request that I made is that the town council consider removing the mandate that they've given the Conservation Commission to study industrial power generation using wind turbines from the Conservation Commission. And I respectfully request that at some point soon, you address those requests. And I would appreciate a reply. I didn't make them for a philosophical standpoint. I really want a response.
Okay, thanks, Ed. I appreciate it. All right, folks, we're going to continue on. Thanks, Willie.
Mr. President, I move that we recess for 5 minutes.
Okay. It's fine. We'll recess in 5 minutes.
I'm not using the president, I'm just doing tonight, tomorrow, and then I'm gonna try to come Wednesday, and I have to go to 4 to 7 o'clock, but I can't finish it on that.
Right. Well, you have to come for me because I have to work till 8 that night. Although apparently it'll probably still be going because it's after 9. I can probably just shoot on over afterwards. Supposed to be over.
Like
Or, okay,
Okay, I want to continue on the agenda. We've got one item under new business, one under boards and commissions, and a second public forum I'm not going to have because the first one was over about a couple hours. We've had a lot of good back and forth on what to do and what not to do. So first up on the new business, discuss, consider, and possibly vote to adopt a written policy related to the issuance of student locator cards by the town of Hopkinton for the purposes of establishing student residency eligibility to attend the Charahoe Regional School District and all matters incidental thereto, including 4 types of affidavits where parents, guardians, persons acting in loco parentis or on behalf of homeless children, students to ensure town residency of children students seeking to enroll in the Charahoe Regional School District consistent with Rhode Island General Law, Title 16, Chapter 64, RIDE rules and regulations, and any applicable town ordinances. Mr. McGarry, you have the floor.
Thank you. The town of Hopkinton recognizes the value and the importance of educating its students in the Charahoe Regional School District and the costs that are associated with providing such an education. Consequently, the town is required to make school residency determinations. Over the last several weeks, I've worked very closely with the town clerk, Lisa Cook-Martin, and also with town solicitor, Kevin McAllister, and we drafted a proposed school locator card issuance policy for the town of Hopkinton, along with 4 accompanying affidavits. And it is respectfully requested that the town council consider adopting this policy and the accompanying affidavits as a means to make school residency determinations to ensure that the students seeking to enroll in the Charahoe Regional School District qualify consistent with Rhode Island General Law, Title 16, Chapter 64, the Rhode Island Department of Education rules and regs, and any applicable town ordinances.
Okay.
Lisa, how is this different from the policy we've used over the years?
It formalizes, it adopts our own forms in addition to the Charahoe School District card form that they have. It provides a second set of eyes looking at the information and the approval, and it allows more time to consider and get more information from the school district than we had before.
Good job.
I appreciate
Thank you very much.
Bill's support, and he has been very helpful in formulating everything.
Great.
You know, in all honesty, I think we've had some instances, right, where it's questionable whether there was, guardianship, and so it's expensive to send a child to Charahoe. And I think in those cases, at least these affidavits will give us some teeth in the game, I guess, to if there's any fraudulent activity, we'll have something to go back on. So it's just a way to protect the taxpayer dollars as it pertains to Charahoe's enrollment.
I think it's also really important because Charahoe has the best 2 elementary schools in the state, both Ashland and Oak Valley. And we also have one of the top 3 high schools in the state at this point, which means that people are very interested in bringing their children here and moving into town, fraudulently or otherwise. And I do think it's important because a school child cost is $18,000 per year right now, and I'm sure that will continue to go up. But I think this is really important because the school is also very concerned about having children who are basically fraudulent. It's not obviously their fault, but their parents or their guardians. So I think it's a great idea. I'm glad we're finally doing it. And I hope the other towns follow suit.
Okay, Bill was kind enough to put a motion at the bottom of his memo. If someone would like to.
All right. Move that the Hopkinton Town Council adopt a written policy related to the issuance of student locator cards by the town of Hopkinton for purposes of establishing student residency eligibility to attend the Charahoe Regional School District and all matters incidental therein, including 4 types of affidavits for parents, guardians, persons acting in loco parentis, or on behalf of homeless children or students to ensure timely residency of children students seeking to enroll in the Charahoe Regional School District, consistent with RIGL Title 16, Chapter 64, RIDE rules and regulations, and any applicable town
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion, folks? Having heard none, all those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Next up, under boards and commissions, number 1, discuss, consider, and possibly vote to reappoint Stiles M. Gilmore IV to the police commission.
Move that we reappoint Stiles Gilmore IV to the police commission.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn in memory of the late congressman Elijah Cummings of the state of Maryland.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?